Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another Friday video here, and this is my second one of the year. I originally had planned to do this one last Friday, but I was so excited about having just seen the season and series finale of Stranger Things that I went ahead and did that one instead. So this one here is going to be a little bit rough on it. I have a script set up, so you may see me read off screen a little bit, but this is for a movie that you've probably heard a lot about over the last 6 to 8 months or so. But as usual, my new format that I'm doing here is starting off with just the basic gist of the film, just an overall what it's about, what to expect should you want to check it out, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail, which will likely contain some spoilers. But yes, this one here is for Sinners, because it's my turn to finally make a video about Sinners. I saw this one way back, but let's start with it's starring Michael B. Jordan and Michael B. Jordan, as he plays twins in this, Wunmi Masako, Haley Steinfeld, Jack O'Connell, Delroy Lindo, and a newcomer, I believe, for his first role, Miles Canton, just to name a few in this really great film. Now, it's written and directed by Ryan Coogler, who also brought us Fruitvale Station, Black Panther 1 and 2, the 3 Creed films, and the synopsis is as follows. Trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. Now, like I said, I'd seen this one in the theaters. I believe it was the weekend it came out, or maybe like a couple days afterward. I'd heard some buzz. I'd actually saved a Fangoria magazine of mine. I saved the article to read until after I saw it, just in case there was any possible spoilers. But a few days after I saw it, the film just really blew up. It really started to spread. Word of mouth was great. The sales were through the roof. It was really great stuff. But it really got a lot of notice. But although I enjoyed it, I definitely I wanted to hold off on making a video about it for 2 reasons. The first one is I'm a very small channel, as you know. I'm not really out there to try to grow as big as I can. Otherwise, I would use a lot of arrows and circles in my thumbnails and go really negative and trash some films. That seems to get a lot of traffic on YouTube. But anything that I put up about a movie that's new, especially one that's widely popular like this one, will likely not get seen by many, as YouTube is filled with other videos for more established channels, or especially channels which go into much deeper dive on film analysis rather than my simple, I like this film for these reasons, maybe you will too. The whole looking for something to watch style. So when I put a video together, I hope that people watch it and not that it doesn't get lost. And I figured back when this film came out, a video would definitely get lost in the shuffle of everything else going on out there. But second is involving the film Longlegs. Now, I thought it was alright. It's a good movie, but not great. But at the time, there was so much hype, I was expecting more. So when it was just good, in my opinion, I felt like it was just all right because the expectations were really high. It kind of ruined what the film probably could have been to me. So I didn't want to alter an expectation that anybody else would have of this movie by really raving because I was just fresh out of it. Heaping praise upon it right after I saw it and building up this high expectation, which it may not live up to for a new viewer. I didn't want to talk it up so much, so I held off a bit, and I've watched it a few more times since then. Now that I'm done with that high, here's basically, now that I've watched it 3 times, here's some information about the film as a whole. The whole, I enjoyed it for these reasons, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. So let's start with the synopsis that I read earlier. These brothers, twins played by Michael B. Jordan, they're really played in excellent fashion, as they went to great lengths with the visual effects. They're returning home after Chicago, and he really plays these roles very differently. You can kind of tell who's who in many of the cases just by how he performs each character. But they're reconnecting slowly while also purchasing some property to turn into a juke joint. You have music, food, drink, really good times to be had. They're recruiting Canton's character, Sammy, to play guitar, the blues, as well as Delroy Lindo's character to play piano and harmonica, another friend from working the fields to work the door, 2 from a shop to prepare food and create a sign for the place, and so on. They're kind of rounding the troops to put on a show at this new venue and really make a lot of money. So these twins do have a sketchy past. It's said that they were in, I believe, World War I, and eventually they had moved to Chicago, got involved with different organized crime there, both Irish and Italian, before moving back down south. Now, we get a lot about their relationships with some of the people in this town and what their reputation is, and it really feels, for most of it, more like a drama than horror. But the horror is kind of set up and spoken about in the very opening of the film. Speaking of people who play music with such skill and soul that there's a sense of magic behind it. So much so that they can bring in spirits from the past, the present, and even the future. And in some cases, evil spirits will find a way in as well to kind of latch on to that portal of sorts. And that's where the horror really comes in. Now, all that I knew about this movie before going in was that it had Michael B. Jordan, there's something about vampires, and something about music. That's all. And going in like that was really good because as the character and world building got underway, it filled in the setting for Michael B. Jordan's, and Michael B. Jordan's characters and this whole vampire thing. So I didn't go in completely blind, but I just knew the very basic gist of it. And but what really hit home for me is that this isn't, just that a vampire or horror aspects of it. But before we get into any of that, if they just kept it more about the twins and this juke joint, the drama and music side, the story would still be great. The vampire stuff just adds another layer and kind of brings things a lot deeper. So of course people have put this one on a pedestal, but it is one that I try not to use, even though I agree wholeheartedly. This is a great film, especially that music aspect, showing the power to call these spirits, how music connects us all together, our history, our culture, our future even. But without going into any spoilery details for this first chunk, I will leave you with this information for those who haven't seen it yet. Yes, it is overall a horror film, I would say, or at least there is a lot of horror throughout this drama, especially toward the end. But if you're worried about fright or gore, it's pretty tame. There is an action scene with some violence and gore, but it's not the showcase of what the film is. There aren't even any really super frightening scenes, just a few jumps here and there. And then we do have some gore toward the end, but really it isn't over the top. It isn't like something like Terrifier or anything like that. It's not worked in to be gross, it's just part of the story. And there is a lot more to this film than those horror aspects. And yes, this is a high pedestal, and it may be hard to ignore that and take it in without the bias, but the worst thing I've heard about this film is somebody just saying, yeah, it was good, and that was about it. That's the worst I'd heard of it. It really is a good one, which I think that most can enjoy. So if worried about the horror aspects or it being set on too high of a pedestal, don't be. Just go in with an open mind. I'm expecting a 1930s drama involving music, Jim Crow, family, this layer of horror on top, but not really central in my opinion. And I think you will enjoy this one quite a bit. Now, I believe at the time of this video it is still on HBO Max and paid rental, so check it out if interesting. But now as we get up to the spoilery info, I will put up this banner here in case anybody that needs a reminder to kind of stop here and come back once you've seen the film. But for more detail in both the film and my reaction to it, let me just say that this one really caught me off guard, especially the impact of the music on top of these performances. A few moments which really stuck out to me. First one, Wunmi Masako, everything about her is absolutely gorgeous. I know her mainly from Lovecraft Country and Loki, but her scenes like reuniting with Smoke and the whole scene in her shack, and especially when she mentions working every route she knows, a little audio shutter, that slight change in lighting, it really hit hard. She really brings a great performance, and the way they set up that scene really brings a lot of power. Not to mention everything with her character towards the ending, seeing her in white with her baby was just such a sweet performance, really great character, really strong character that I loved everything about her. Now when it comes to Michael B. Jordan, like I said earlier, he really played a difference between Smoke and Stack. There were times when I still got them mixed up, but overall, this was unexpected. Being twins in this wasn't a gimmick of some sort. He played them well, and it was executed perfectly. I didn't even analyze, the scenes to try to figure out how they pulled off some of those visual effects. It was just seamless after a while. Some things that were pointed out were one of his characters saying how that night was the last time he saw his brother. And being a vampire with no reflection, he can't even look in the mirror to see his brother anymore. Just an interesting little note that somebody had pointed out in a comment for one of the videos that I'd seen about it. Another aspect that really stuck out in this one was the history, not just filling us in on or reminding us about segregation, but little bits thrown in really explaining different portions of it. On top of that, the history of Smoke and Stack becomes evident when they, speak of Irish beer and Italian wine. Their dress, their shady comments, just knowing that they ripped off the mob, pitted them against each other while they took the loot and headed back down south. But it was also interesting with that history, seeing like the shop, where we have one shop on the black side of town, one or on the black side of the street, another shop on the white side of the street, how differently they both spoke, as well as you know, like the accents that they had depending on who their customers were. So we get to see that segregation, and we see how that's handled by these Chinese shop owners. Another one that I really liked in this, of course, is the vampire mythology. Like I said, I love vampire films. I even tried Twilight years ago before realizing it just really wasn't for me. I'm not the target audience. But one thing that I don't recall seeing in other vampire films is this shared memory idea. It may have been out there and I've just forgotten about it, but I like this idea that, you know, if you turn one, then they kind of, you know what they know what you know. It kind of makes it even more dangerous, that they will know the exact way to get to somebody else and how to manipulate somebody else. But it also gives that shared culture, like the vampires are building their own historical melting pot of sorts, mixing everyone that they have turned. It was just a really interesting thing that, like I said, I don't recall seeing it in any other film, but if it was in another film, just let me know in the comments, because I would love to either revisit it if I never saw it or if I haven't seen it in a long time, or check it out for the first time. Another one, of course, I'll just call it the scene. You know the one, the juke joint scene showing Sammy open that portal, calling the spirits of the past, present, and future. When we hit that electric guitar, and then a few seconds later that turntable, and showing all the dancers and everybody in that long tracking one shot, man, it almost brought tears to my eye, and like how beautifully that was shot when I saw that in the theater. It's one of those scenes which I actively sought out reaction videos just to see how that scene was taken in by other YouTubers out there. I wanted to know if I was the only one who was hit hard by that, and I definitely wasn't. Whether it was like Real Rejects, who had a really great reaction video up on that, which I'll link to in the comments, or Melverse especially, seeing his reaction to that was really great, or any other number. I must have seen that scene in particular about 20 times now, just to kind of see how other people took it in, to see if I was the only one kind of moved, if anybody else was moved the way that I was about it. Another one here is Buddy Guy. I don't know how I recognized him when he popped on the screen. He was brought to my attention about 20 years ago by a friend who was teaching me some guitar and a little bit of history of various musicians and the importance that they've held in music historically. But it was a really great way to show where Sammy ends up one day, with the Perlines reference in the background as well. It just really caught me off guard. I can't believe that when I saw him, I recognized him right away, because like I said, it was 20 years ago that I was learning a very little bit about him. But all in all, I was not expecting this one to be quite this good. I went in looking for something which was a throwback in a time period, a throwback in the time period, some vampire fun along the lines of like From Dusk Till Dawn, and anxious to see Michael B. Jordan and Wunmi Masako together, while also being written and directed by Coogler, whose work I've enjoyed previously. But like how I didn't expect Wakanda Forever to be such a dramatic gut punch, the same for Sinners. I went in for the horror and left with kind of like a feeling of being simply filled up by the music and drama in a film which, since I still consider it one of the best ones I've seen in all of 2025, even after 7 or 8 months after initially seeing it and then watching it several times over, it really says something, that this one was obviously more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out my latest rambling video here about Sinners from 2025. Like I said, it's on HBO Max and paid rental. I've got it on physical media, of course, and I'm going to do some videos soon about what I consider to be the importance of physical media. But like I said about that comment about the vampire's memory, just in general, what are your thoughts on this film? Go ahead and fill up this comment section. Was it overhyped for you? Did it live up? When did you first check it out? Was this something that you saw in the theaters, or did you see it after all the hype was out there? Sound off in those comments, and as usual, thanks for coming by and for sticking around to the end. If you enjoyed, please give me a thumbs up, and if not already subscribed, consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon to get notifications for when I put up new content, which is 1 to 3 times a week. I'm trying to put out a little bit more this year. Thanks again for coming by, and I will see you in the next one.